Hi everyone, and welcome back to a special episode of Shell and Tell from Back to the Sea Society. My name is Haley, and today's episode is brought to you in partnership with the Clean Foundation. At Clean, we do environmental education programming on everything from renewable energy to climate to the importance of clean air and water. You can learn more about our programs and resources for teachers in a link at the end of the episode. Today for Shell and Tell, we're out here in beautiful Halifax, Nova Scotia. And since we're here in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral home of the Mi'kmaq people, this place has a Mi'kmaq name too, and that is Chibuktuk. Now, I learned that by doing some research online, and I'll put some links in the description for you if you want to do your own research too. I'm so excited to be doing this Shell and Tell today because I get to talk about one of my favorite ocean animals. Now, it doesn't have arms or legs or fins, but shucks, I think it's great. Oysters! Now, oysters are a super important animal in the ocean ecosystem, and even though they don't have a brain, I think that they are creative, generous, and wise. Let's find out why. Now, what you see here, the shell, is only the outside of the animal. Oysters are very independent and they build their own shells over their lifetime, but on the inside is an ooey gooey animal, and the shell protects that animal from predators. Now, you'll notice that the oyster doesn't have teeth or a beak, so how do you think it gets its food? Well, oysters are filter feeders, just like their cousins like mussels, clams, and scallops. And this means that they suck in ocean water around them and filter out any little bits of food they can get and spit the rest of it back out. This means that when the oyster eats, it's actually helping clean the ocean water around it. Too much sediment or algae growth in ocean water can cause something called eutrophication and actually be bad for ocean health. So the oyster helps prevent this by keeping the water clean just by having dinner. Isn't that generous? Normally when I eat dinner, everything's a lot messier afterwards. Now, you'll notice that this little guy doesn't have any fins or swimming appendages. That's because oysters spend their adult lives not moving. They anchor down onto structure like a rock or a reef, and they spend the rest of their lives there. In fact, some species of oyster like to make their permanent homes next to one another, creating a big underwater structure called an oyster reef. Then other ocean animals can use that structure for a home or a place to find food. This is called being an ecosystem engineer because oysters create a big change in their environment and the habitat around them. Scientists have actually found that oyster reefs can increase biodiversity, meaning the amount of different species living in one area. That's very nice of you, oyster. And humans benefit too. Oyster reefs can actually help slow down waves that are coming in during big storms. That is so generous of you, oyster. Probably one of my favorite things about oysters is what they do when they're presented with a problem. Do you remember how I said the inside of the oyster is very squishy and ooey gooey? Well, that means that it's vulnerable to damage, and occasionally a little piece of foreign object like a piece of sand or a parasite will get inside the oyster and lodge itself between the squishy part, we call that the mantle, and the shell. But instead of giving up and letting that be the end, oysters fight back with patience and with creativity. It creates a substance called nacre, or mother of pearl, and wraps the foreign object in it. Now, if you've ever opened an oyster shell and looked in at the shiny inside, that part is also nacre, or mother of pearl. The oyster then adds layer after layer of nacre onto the object, sometimes thousands of layers. Fast forward a few months or even a few years, and inside that oyster is a beautiful, glistening pearl. Now that is a pretty creative and patient way to handle a problem, if you ask me. So there you have it. Oysters are generous, cleaning ocean water, creating habitat for other sea creatures, and helping coastal communities avoid storm damage. Oysters are creative. They find a way to take something dangerous and turn it into something beautiful. And oysters are wise because they know that with every challenge in life is the opportunity to get a pearl of wisdom. I hope you enjoyed this Shell and Tell video. Make sure to follow Back to the Sea Society for more awesome ocean education, and check the link in the description for more about the environmental education we do at Clean. See you later!